Am I the idiot for not forgiving my husband, 26M, for a mistake and not trusting him with our child? I, 24F, gave birth to my daughter 6 months ago, and it should have been the happiest moment in my life. When my daughter was born, her skin was very dark and looked like she could have 2 biological parents who were of African descent. My husband Jim, 26M, fake name, was furious and accused me of cheating and left right then and there. He told everyone on both sides of the family what happened, made posts on social media, and wanted a divorce. His family and a lot of our friends all called to say how upset they were at me and called me really nasty names. My mother was by my side the entire time and I kept professing my innocence. Jim refused to pick me up from the hospital, threw my stuff out on the lawn and changed the locks, so I had to stay with my parents. When my sister called to ask for the baby stuff, Jim texted me pictures of the bare nursery room and said he got rid of everything. He even destroyed my art studio. I like to paint, and the art I made, and told me my work would be too awful to sell. I was distraught and tried to focus on my baby. Weeks went by and Jim refused to speak to me directly and has never once asked about our child. Eventually, he agreed to do a paternity and he was 100% the father. No one could believe the results and it was done again. Jim's the dad. Around that same time, one of Jim's cousins did the ancestry thing and there was around 30% of African ancestry in the family. This combined with the test, Jim's paternal great-grandmother admitted to having an affair around the time Jim's grandfather was born, and was because he could pass, she just assumed her husband was the father. Since then, Jim has been reaching out and everyone has come to apologize, and while it did feel good to feel vindicated, the damage has been done. I can't unhear or unsee all the horrible things that was said and done. Not just to me, but to my child as well. Jim made some very racist remarks. Things that I thought he'd never say, and he did it so easily. Regardless of what our daughter looks like, I don't want her to be around that. What else will Jim and his family say or do the next time they get mad? How are they going to treat our daughter when she does something that upsets them? Jim has been begging for forgiveness. I said I needed time. He asked to see the baby and I let him, but I'm too afraid to physically hand her to him. He's repairing the nursery and keeps asking me what I would like, and I cry every time, saying we already had what I liked, and some of the items that we had can't be replaced. He asked me if I still loved him and I admitted that he showed me his worst self and I don't know if I could live with that image. I didn't mean to be hurtful, but it's how I feel. My sister suggested couples therapy, but I don't feel like I should have to work to fix something that I didn't break. I've never cheated and have been 100% innocent in all of this. The whole. Update 1, I stepped away for a few hours and couldn't believe what I came back to. I am truly amazed by all the wonderful comments of support as well as the private messages. I also understand why some people may think this is fake, and all I can say is that you are free to believe what you want in this. I also see some questions and I think I should clarify a few things just in case your judgment may change. All of this initially happened at the near February and I was already settled at my parents' house before the pandemic hit. One of the reasons Jim wouldn't pick me up from the hospital was because I wouldn't admit to cheating or give him any details, because there weren't any, which made him angrier. Based on the pictures Jim sent me, he didn't take a sledgehammer to the crib or anything. He just took stuff down to either return it for the money or gave it away. While deeply hurtful, I wouldn't call it violent, but maybe it is. Online he announced that I pushed out a dark-skinned baby and was going to divorce me. His family started with the racial comments and eventually he started doing it too, but only through my family. He refused to speak to me directly. Once the truth came out, everything he and his family posts were all taken down, but I and a few friends still have the screenshots. Jim never wrote down his racial remarks. While he didn't say any of the racist words, he did make comments about our daughter being a welfare princess, and how I was going to be just another baby mama. Just to clarify, Jim is a white and I am at least half white. One of my parents is adopted, and with everything that's happened they decided to do the ancestry thing too, and we should be getting the results any day now. Update 2, spelling errors. Update 3. Mod denied separate post, so it's here as an edit. Thank you so for all your words of encouragement a couple months back, both in posts and the DMs. A lot of things have happened since my initial post and I just needed time to process it, and be in a place where I can write about on social media. So here it goes. First, my parent who was adopted did the ancestry/23 thing, and it turns out that Jim wasn't the only one who had African ancestry. My parent had at least 45%, which means I have at least 20%. I am legally separated from my husband with primary custody, and I'm living with my parents until further notice. He still keeps apologizing and wants me to come back to the house. He even offered to leave so I could stay with our daughter, but I don't want to and really like having the support of my parents. My dad is retired, so he does a lot of the babysitting while my mother and I work remotely. I do go to the house every so often so Jim can see his daughter and for couples counseling via telecom. In one of the sessions Jim confessed something really hurtful and some of you guessed right, he cheated. It was while we were dating, before he proposed, and his treatment towards me was a projection. It was with an ex-girlfriend who had cheated on him and he hooked up with her as an ego boost. He started to feel guilty but was too scared that I would walk away to ever confess. Jim also admitted that he was scared when I got pregnant, our baby wasn't planned, was very anxious about being a father, but just pretended to be excited because he didn't want to look like an A. My husband was so willing to believe that our daughter wasn't his because he thought he had an out. Now that he knows that our child is his and has spent time with her, Jim regrets everything and just wants his family back, and is willing to spend the rest of his life making it up to us. This was all deeply hurtful and I've cried about it more than once. Jim has been lying to me and my ability to trust him hasn't improved at all. When the holidays came around, Jim's parents asked about seeing their grandchild and I didn't want to. They told me that it was selfish of me to keep her away and I reminded them of their past. They said that they've already apologized and tried to minimize the situation. They said that I can't be angry forever and that I need to learn to forgive them. I'm so ashamed of ever loving and marrying into this family and wonder why I didn't see this before. I've decided to contact a lawyer and will be filing for divorce after my daughter's first birthday. Comment 1. NTA, get divorced and show proof of the messages to get at least a 80/20 custody or full. I would not trust that disgusting excuse of a man to get near me or my child, if I had one. If anything drastic would have happened again after getting back together, if you do decide to, he could act worse than he did before. Protect yourself and the baby. Comment 2. OP is NTA. I'm so sorry you had to go through this at such a vulnerable time for you and your daughter. I was surprised when I read this. Are you familiar with the American short story, Desiree's Baby, by Kate Chopin? It was written in the 1890s, but takes place before the Civil War. A white married couple has a baby who appears dark-skinned. The racist father blames the mother and casts her and the baby out to die, except then he finds out about a hidden aspect of his own Louisiana plantation class family, and it turns out his lineage is where the dark skin came from. I don't mean at all to minimize your experience by comparing it to this story. As a teacher of literature, I find stories like this can help us learn about and process the kind of weird crap life throws at us. I wish you peace going forward, OP. Now for the next story. Am I the idiot for not forgiving my husband for a mistake he made a decade ago? When I had our oldest child, I planned for just my husband and I to be there. I wanted support but not to be overwhelmed, and he was happy it would be just us. He said if I had let my sister in the room like she wanted, he would have expressed his issues with it. The labor seemed fine enough. A buddy wanted to see him before Buddy went on vacation. Buddy even had the audacity to say I should have had the baby sooner. My husband went to see him off. He never asked. He just told me and I was having a contraction, so I literally couldn't even tell him I wanted him to stay. While he was gone, things took a turn and they told me I was becoming high risk. I opted for an epidural in the event I needed an emergency section, because they said I was on my way to the or if our heart rates got worse. I wanted to wait, but I couldn't take the pain, stress and lack of support all at once. The nurse did her best to assure me I was amazing and making a good choice. My husband strolls back in, big smile on his face, and starts talking about the fun he just had. I cut him off to tell him I was livid, hurt and that he could go sit in the corner until pushing time. He was only there because I wanted to tell our child he was present for the birth. That I was the better person and he should be grateful. He sulked away and the nurse treated him accordingly. I stayed high risk and the room flooded with nurses at pushing time. Fortunately, both baby and I surprised them, though we were both monitored for a few days. I agreed to go back to our home under the condition every single demand I had was met. He agreed, though we continued to have some rough moments. With our second, I had my sister present. I told him it's because I knew she wouldn't let me down. He didn't argue, but I know he was hurt by this. The birth went really well and he was a good support. We have had many ups and downs since, including a separation, and now we are trying to reconcile and are in therapy. He brought up recently this and asked if I forgave him. I told him no. I'm never going to. I don't bring it up anymore, but the anger and disappointment I felt then is still as strong as it is now. He looked defeated and said he can't apologize anymore for it, and as long as I hold on to that anger we are going to have trouble moving on and building trust. I don't disagree with him. But I don't think I can forgive him for that. I know he's made improvements, but that moment changed how I felt about him and saw him as a person. I honestly feel like allowing him in the room at all was all the kindness he could have asked of me. But admittedly, I did that for our child. I don't bring it up, and our therapist said I am good at giving opportunities, but I don't think I'll ever be able to say, I forgive you for that. Edit. The second child was not planned but a birth control fail while we were working on our marriage. I did not intend on having another child with him until our marriage was in a better place, but I accept it and I do not regret having the second child. He was present when our second child was born and even cut the cord, like he did with the first. Edit. I'm done commenting for now. But I would like to clear things up. I did end the marriage, for other reasons. My husband wants to work things out and I am trying giving all of his efforts. He has also read the comments. Despite many of you judging me and taking his side, he can't feel supported by this. He also doesn't understand how you all blame me for stringing him along. He is the one who wanted another chance that I didn't have to give to him. He absolutely does not want me to end our relationship over this and is worried about the encouragement I have been given. With some of the other comments, he's realizing how unfair he has been to me. He absolutely brings it up to soothe his own guilt, not because I do anything to him about that. We both will discuss this with our own therapists and well as the marriage counselor, when we can finally get back to her. Thank you for your judgments. This really did help. Comment 1. I've been thinking about how to respond to this comment a lot. Up until now, I feel like an asshole for not forgiving him. A lot of my friends, his friends, and a ton of our family have taken my side and said he doesn't deserve forgiveness. But I also feel like an asshole for ending the relationship over this. But I had to face the possibility of our child dying alone. And while he has been great in so many other ways, he expects me to let go of that so he feels better. I'm really torn about how to handle this. Comment 2. For me, trust is an active verb. Yes, someone has to earn trust, has to do something that makes them trustworthy. But ultimately, you trust someone just by trusting them. There's no magic switch, you just do it. OP does not have to trust husband again. But there will never be a moment when he's objectively done enough to earn forgiveness either because he can't undo what happened. Either OP will choose to trust and be vulnerable again, or not. The only reason to make someone earn that trust is so OP can have a better sense of if the potential reward of the relationship outweighs the potential risk of getting hurt again.